I need to talk to you about my mother, Lynette. Today, I am exposing a dark truth about my mom's disappearance that has never been shared publicly before. Please stay with me, because what I have to share is critical. This is a reality that simply cannot be ignored. In a chilling new development, I am finally speaking out with a massive bombshell about my stepfather, Brian Hooker. I need to expose a terrifying event from 2 years ago. During a violent fight inside our home, Brian brutally grabbed my mother.
He choked her until she could not breathe and threatened to murder her.
He swore he would throw her body into the ocean so she would never be found. Why did that exact nightmare come true? And what are federal agents finding in those dark waters right now? Before we go any deeper, please take a moment to like and subscribe to help me bring my mother's story to light. My mother's dream of living on a luxury sailboat quickly became a nightmare. It turned into a claustrophobic death trap in the pitch black. On April 4th, their 46-foot vessel named Soulmate lay anchored, floating in the deceptively calm waters of Aunt Pat's Bay in the Bahamas. My stepfather claims that around 7:30 that evening, they were out traveling. He says he and my mom were taking a small 8-foot dinghy through violent waves when she fell. Supposedly, she bounced off the side and just vanished into the Black Ocean. His entire defense rests on a bizarre chain of mechanical failures. He claims that when my mom fell, the keys went down with her. This supposedly killed the motor instantly, leaving him completely helpless. But local boaters and investigators are already tearing his story apart. The waters where my mother supposedly drowned are notoriously shallow. People there point out that near the shore, the water is incredibly shallow. An adult could literally stand up or easily swim to safety. Yet he never screamed for help or tried to alert nearby boats. My stepfather's actions over the next 24 hours were calculated. They show a chilling picture of cold calculation instead of panic. According to the timeline, it took him 8 agonizing hours to paddle that dinghy ashore. He finally showed up at Marsh Harbor at 4 in the morning, all to report my mother missing. After searching for just 3 hours with rescue teams, he stopped. He went back to the Soulmate and sat in silence for almost an entire day. He did not search, and he never called out to neighbors for help. He gave absolutely no helpful details to the desperate search crews. While locals grow furious, investigators believe his calm demeanor was not out of shock. They think it was just the quiet realization of his ultimate plan. His terrifying threat from 2 years ago had finally been carried out.
Behind the happy social media posts on their sailing channel lay a dark, painful secret.
A chilling reality of control and physical terror was constantly going on. Our family hid this abuse for over a decade. My mother was a 55-year-old free spirit. She loved yoga, was deeply passionate about the sea, and spent years crafting custom canvases. My mother poured years of hard work into maintaining her 46-foot yacht, Soulmate. She fully funded that marine vessel all by herself.
To her, it was a personal sanctuary and her ultimate retirement escape.
But she had unknowingly trapped herself miles from civilization with a highly volatile partner. As her distraught daughter, I had to expose my stepfather's terrifying double-sided personality. I always saw Brian Hooker as a man who masked his severe aggression. He hid it behind an incredibly charming and outgoing exterior. He used that fake charm to deceive our neighbors and passing boaters. But that superficial charm completely vanished behind closed doors. That was where Brian truly weaponized his authority. He constantly imposed irrational punishments on our family. He routinely escalated simple arguments into terrifying physical fights. The deep psychological trauma within our family became completely undeniable. I remember when my mother fled her dream boat during a brief separation. She ran to Florida for emergency refuge to escape his building rage. During that frantic escape, My terrified mother detailed a truly horrific night. She told me Brian violently pinned her down and choked her. He choked her until she nearly blacked out, calmly vowing to dump her body. He threatened to throw her deep into the Atlantic Ocean. He claimed that no forensic team would ever find her body. Yet, despite that terrifying warning of her own death, she returned. The complex, manipulative cycle of domestic abuse ultimately dragged my mother back. She returned to the vessel, sealing her fate in those isolated waters. Her destiny was locked away in the remote expanses of the Caribbean. Local boaters who interacted with them before that April day noticed the tension. They saw that the toxic friction between them got dramatically worse whenever they drank. It transformed the cramped quarters of the yacht into a highly dangerous environment. When my mother vanished into the black waters of Aunt Pat's Bay, the mystery deepened. My stepfather immediately tried to control the public narrative. He painted himself as a deeply grieving, broken-hearted husband. He claimed he was desperately fighting unpredictable wind currents to rescue his soulmate. This sudden public display of grief was a total contrast to his actual behavior on the water. Out on the water, he deliberately chose to sit alone aboard his yacht. He sat there for a whole day while rescue teams searched. Why did my supposedly panicked stepfather refuse to look me in the eye? What dark secrets were federal authorities about to uncover inside that boat? The Royal Bahamas Police Force quickly stepped in to investigate. My stepfather's calculated story immediately began to fracture under intense forensic scrutiny. The police refused to buy his bizarre story about a drifting dinghy and a missing safety lanyard. They swiftly took my 59-year-old stepfather into criminal custody. For 5 grueling days, investigators interrogated my stepfather in custody. They made a high-stakes effort to extract the truth behind my mother's sudden disappearance. In a highly unusual move, Bahamian detectives marched him back onto the open water. He was in heavy handcuffs to conduct a forensic reenactment of that fateful night. During this tense walkthrough in the choppy seas, then came a bizarre moment when my father suddenly lost his balance and plunged directly overboard, injuring his knee before police dragged him back into their boat. While my dad's lawyer insisted he was completely innocent and demanded immediate medical attention. Skeptical locals saw the whole scene as a cheap show to stall the investigation. Because there was no real physical evidence at the time, Bahamian prosecutors had to let my father go without any charges. And my dad immediately fled the islands, breaking his public promise to never stop searching for my missing mother. The case took a dramatic, unbelievable turn when international waters became the stage for a massive multi-agency sting operation. Though my father fled to Michigan, American federal agents had quietly taken control, launching a massive surveillance operation from the skies. Air Station Miami flight crews tracked our 46-foot yacht, Soulmate, as it suddenly left Marsh Harbor, piloted by a private captain my father hired to quietly slip the boat back to Florida. Knowing the most important piece of evidence was slipping away, the United States Coast Guard Investigative Service pulled off a high-intensity, mid-ocean interception, seizing our family's luxury sailboat 40 nautical miles off the coast of Melbourne. The federal seizure turned chaotic when our yacht's engine completely died out at sea, forcing a Coast Guard cutter to tow the silent ghost ship right through the Fort Pierce Inlet. Once docked, federal agents immediately wrapped our boat in yellow crime scene tape, launching a thorough forensic raid to search the cabins for blood splatter, digital files, and hidden electronics. What dark secrets did those forensic teams tear out of our beloved Soulmate? And what did a mysterious boat nearby witness? On the night my mother disappeared, behind the locked gates at the Fort Pierce Coast Guard Station, federal forensic teams slowly ripped apart the inside of the Soulmate. turning our family's luxury boat into a silent witness against my father. Special agents with the Coast Guard Investigative Service, alongside digital forensic experts, spent days scraping the main cabins of our boat, bilge pumps, and outer hulls for any microscopic traces of a struggle. Investigators focused heavily on pulling data from the yacht's onboard GPS chart plotters, satellite communication arrays, and cell phones to map out my father's exact movements down to the single meter. That GPS data exposed a devastating anomaly in my father's timeline, completely destroying his story about a frantic wind-driven drift. Instead, the electronic footprint pointed to a highly localized, calculated sequence of events. That happened long before he made his casual 4 a.m. call to the police. As investigators searched through the woodwork, whispers spread through the close-knit Michigan and Florida boating communities that special chemicals had revealed a suspicious cleanup. Patterns inside my mom's cabin showed me that someone desperately tried to wipe away physical evidence before giving the keys to a hired captain. The thick tension around this active criminal investigation grew even worse when federal agencies put out an urgent, global appeal to find a second, unregistered boat. Newly unsealed maritime tracking logs showed us that a mystery sailboat was anchored right beside the Soulmate in the quiet, shallow waters of Aunt Pat's Bay on the night my mom vanished. Investigators believe the occupants of this ghost boat were direct eyewitnesses to my mom's fatal struggle, maybe even hearing the terrifying sounds of their final fight, or seeing the exact moment my mom was pushed into the black water. This massive breakthrough completely shattered Brian's carefully spun story about a tragic accident out on the open sea. By treating the Soulmate as an active murder scene, federal prosecutors are successfully building a tight wall around Brian,
Matching his terrifying past threats with
the cold, hard reality of the boat's tracking data. My family and I now wait in agonizing anticipation, waiting for the Department of Justice to officially turn the Coast Guard's massive forensic findings into a formal federal indictment for murder on the high seas. The emotional toll on our family has pushed us to a breaking point in this painful limbo, where we cannot truly grieve without her body or a confession. I openly refuse to answer Brian's shallow text messages, choosing instead to work closely with federal investigators to make sure my mother's beautiful legacy is not buried in a shallow Bahamian grave. Legal experts and veteran maritime lawyers tell us that proving a murder case without a body is incredibly difficult. But his clear, documented history of choking my mom, his deliberate 24-hour delay in searching for her, and the highly compromised boat data makes Brian's eventual arrest feel absolutely inevitable.
the luxury sailboat that once represented my mom's hard-earned retirement dream now sits rotting in a federal yard,
completely wrapped in yellow crime scene tape, standing as a heavy monument to his calculated betrayal. Brian remains a free man in Michigan, hiding away from the spotlight. But the legal noose is tightening with every single byte pulled from the yacht's hard drives. This relentless pursuit of justice by the Coast Guard Investigative Service sends a clear message to the world that the deep, dark ocean will no longer protect a predator from his crimes.